The air was thick with smoke. Trees stood tall like dark shadows, but their leaves were burning slowly. The forest on planet Terrath was alive with danger, and death was hiding behind every tree. John, a human man with a scar over his right eye, walked carefully through the jungle path. He was not here for treasure or glory. He was just looking for scrap metal and old tech to sell. His scanner beeped softly, showing signs of energy nearby. Maybe an old escape pod or a broken drone, he thought. But then he heard something strange. Soft crying. He stopped, listening closely. The sound came again, from deeper inside the trees. It was not a machine. It was the cry of a child. And it was close. John moved quietly, hiding behind rocks and thick vines. As he reached a small clearing, the smell of smoke hit him harder. There was a ruined alien shelter, made of silver metal, and soft lights now broken and blackened. Flames danced around the edges. The walls had deep claw marks and strange footprints covered the ground. John's eyes scanned the wreck and then he saw them. Two small alien children hiding under a broken metal sheet. One was trembling, holding the other close. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes large and glowing. They looked weak, scared, and alone. John stepped forward slowly, showing his empty hands. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The older child stared at him without moving, but the younger one whispered, "Please, help us." Before John could answer, a loud crack echoed through the forest. He turned quickly, pulling out his old plasma pistol. From the trees, shadows began to move. Dozens of glowing eyes appeared one after another. Long bodies, sharp, claws and hungry mouths. The creatures had found them. John stepped in front of the children. His heart raced, but his hands were steady. He had faced monsters before, on Earth, in war zones and in other planets, but never this many, and never alone. He fired once, hitting a creature in the head. It screamed and fell, but more rushed in from all sides. John grabbed a metal rod from the wreck and swung it hard. He shouted at the kids, "Stay behind me! Don't move!" The fight had begun. He kicked one beast away, slashed another, and shot two more, but there were too many. They circled him like wolves, waiting for a mistake. One of them jumped and scratched his back, leaving a deep wound. John shouted in pain but didn't fall. He turned and smashed its skull with the rod. Blood splashed on the ground, thick and dark. The children were crying but still stayed in place, trusting him. John saw a narrow path to the left, leading to a tunnel carved into a hill. He had to take them there. It was their only chance. He picked up the smaller child, grabbed the hand of the older one, and ran. The creatures chased them, howling, breaking branches and rocks behind. John fired his last two shots to slow them down. They entered the tunnel just in time. Inside was dark but cool and quiet. The beasts stayed outside, scratching the walls, waiting. But they didn't come in. John fell to his knees, breathing heavily. He looked at the kids, both alive but scared. The older one whispered, "They will come again, they always do." John looked toward the entrance, his jaw tight. "Then we'll be ready," he said. The fire outside lit the entrance with a red glow inside the tunnel. The human and the alien children waited for the next storm, and the forest kept burning. The tunnel was cold and dark. Dripping water echoed through the stone walls. John sat with his back against the wall, his shirt torn and soaked with blood. The small alien child lay asleep on his lap, her face peaceful for the first time. The older one sat close, eyes watching the tunnel's mouth, silent and alert. Outside, the monsters moved in circles, their claws scratching the rocks. They weren't leaving, they were waiting. John knew they were smart. Not clever like humans, but smart enough to trap their prey. They were letting him bleed, letting fear build. He touched his back, deep cuts, painful and wet. He would survive. But not forever. Not without help, not with two kids depending on him. He looked around the tunnel, searching for anything useful. There were broken pipes, cracked crates, maybe old mining tools. This used to be a working site once, long ago. Now it was a grave. The older child finally spoke, her voice low. "My name is Vela," she said. "This is Luma." John nodded. "I'm John." Vela looked down, ashamed. "We were running with our mother, but we got separated when the fire started." John placed a hand on her shoulder. "You stayed strong. You protected her," he said kindly. Her eyes shimmered, trying not to cry. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I." John answered. "But that doesn't mean we give up." He stood up slowly, groaning as his wounds stretched. He checked his gear. No bullets, one broken blade, one flare, and a small knife. Not much, but better than nothing. He searched the crates and found some wires, old batteries, and a busted torch. From them, he crafted a shock trap. It wouldn't stop the creatures for long, but it might buy time. He placed it near the tunnel's entrance, hiding the wires in dirt and stones. Then he sat back down and waited. Hours passed, the forest outside still. Glowing from the fire, the creatures howled every few minutes to remind them they were not alone. Luma woke up and hugged her sister, her voice soft. "Are we going to die?" John leaned forward, looking into her eyes. "Not today," he said, firm and calm. Suddenly, the tunnel floor shook. The creatures were digging, creating a second entrance. John grabbed his knife and the flare. "We're moving," he said. "Now!" He led them deeper into the tunnel, down a narrow slope. Old rails ran along the ground, leftover tracks from mining carts. Vela helped carry Luma while John stayed alert at the back. Then he heard it, a distant sound like static. He followed it until he found a rusted comms panel half buried in dust. It blinked weakly, powered by some ancient backup system. He twisted the knobs, trying different channels. A voice came through, broken and fading. "Vela, Luma, where are you?" It was their mother. Vela rushed to the panel. "We're here. We're safe. A human saved us." Her mother's voice cracked, filled with emotion. "I'm coming for you, but the path is blocked. Stay hidden. Stay strong." Then silence. The panel died completely, its last bit of life used. John looked at Vela. "We're not alone anymore." She nodded. "She's coming." But they both knew the path ahead was still full of death. Behind them, they heard a scream, not human, not alien. One of the creatures had triggered the trap. Blue sparks flashed at the tunnel entrance, followed by wild howling. The trap worked, but only for a moment. John turned to the girls. "We need to move again." They climbed deeper into the tunnel, the air getting thicker. Suddenly, the ground opened beneath them, and they all fell. Into a lower shaft. John hit the ground hard, his arm screaming in pain. But they were alive, and now, hidden again. This new place was colder, darker, and full of strange glowing crystals. John lit the flare, revealing a massive underground chamber. It was silent. For now, he helped the girls to their feet. "Rest here," he whispered. "I'll protect you." But deep inside, he knew. The creatures would find them again, and next time they might not run, they might fight to the last breath. The glowing crystals lit the cavern in soft green light. John sat near a rock wall, holding his arm close. It was badly bruised, maybe broken, but he didn't complain. The children needed him strong, even if he wasn't. Luma sat curled up, against her sister, trying to stay warm. Vela looked around nervously, listening for every sound. The beasts hadn't followed them down, yet, but John knew they would. It was just a matter of time. The cavern was strange, almost alive. The crystals pulsed with soft energy, and deep inside the walls were old alien machines. John explored them with his good hand, touching buttons, twisting broken switches. One machine came to life with a weak buzz. A screen blinked and a voice cracked through the dusty speakers. It was soft, desperate, and familiar. "Vela, Luma, please answer. This is your mother." Vela gasped and rushed forward. "Mother, we're here. We're alive." John adjusted the settings, boosting the signal. The voice grew clearer, full of emotion. "My children, thank the stars. I thought I'd lost you." Vela was crying now, but smiling too. We're with a human. He saved us. He fought the creatures. The voice on the speaker trembled. A human. One of the old warriors. Please, thank him for me. John nodded once, eyes steady. Where are you? He asked, his voice rough. I'll bring them to you. There was silence, then a deep breath. I'm at the northern ridge, past the Canyon of Bones, but it's surrounded by beasts and traps. Their nest is nearby, hundreds of them. No one passes through alive. John looked at the girls, then back at the speaker. I will find a way, he said simply. The voice grew softer, full of pain and love. They are my soul, my everything. If you bring them home, I will owe you my heart. Then the machine died, the screen fading into black. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Luma said softly, She's waiting for us. John stood slowly, wrapping his injured arm in cloth, torn from his shirt. He looked at both girls. Then we'll go to her, no matter what's in our way. He pulled out a small tool from his belt and pried open a panel behind the broken screen. Inside, he found an old map disc and a few power cells. The map showed a path through the old tunnels leading toward the northern ridge, but it wasn't safe. It passed through a section marked with red lines and alien symbols. Danger, death, warning. John loaded the map into his wrist scanner. I've been through worse, he muttered. Vela looked at him with wide eyes. Why are you helping us? She asked quietly. John paused, looking at the girls. Because no one helped my little sister when monsters came to our village, he said, voice heavy. I couldn't save her. But maybe I can save you. They packed what little they had. 2 food bars, half a bottle of clean water, and hope. John made a torch using crystal dust and wires, its light sharp and blue. They entered the deeper tunnel, moving carefully. Strange echoes filled the space, whispers in alien language or just tricks of the wind. Luma held John's hand tightly, her tiny fingers gripping his own. He squeezed back gently. I've got you, he said. Suddenly, the walls shook, dust falling from the ceiling. A roar echoed behind them. The beasts had found the upper tunnel and they were coming down fast. John moved quicker, pushing the girls ahead. He triggered a cave-in behind them using an old lever, rocks crashing down to block the path. The roar faded behind the rubble, at least for now. They entered a chamber filled with broken statues and carvings, old alien warriors, frozen in stone, swords raised. This was a temple, Vela whispered. My mother said our people hid here long ago. John looked at the broken faces on the walls. He felt something heavy in the air, like the past watching them. But there was no time for memories. He led them through the temple ruins out the other side. Now they were close, according to the scanner. The Canyon of Bones was just a few hours away, but night was falling and the beasts hunted best in the dark. John found a narrow cave to rest for a short while. He placed the girls in the corner and sat at the entrance, knife in hand as they slept. He looked at the stars through a crack in the rock. The message from their mother echoed in his mind. They are my soul. Bring them home. He would, even if it cost him everything. The sun rose slowly over the horizon. Its red light spilled across the alien landscape like blood. John stood at the mouth of the cave, eyes locked on the far side of the canyon. That was where their mother waited. He could see a silver glimmer through the morning mist, her hidden ship parked on a high ridge. But between him and that ridge was death. The canyon was wide, dry, and full of broken bones. Big ones, small ones, some still stained with old blood. And among those bones, shadows moved. The beasts were there, dozens, maybe hundreds, sleeping in piles or pacing slowly, waiting for movement, waiting for prey. John turned back to Vela and Luma. They're everywhere, he whispered. We'll have to run right through them. Vela's voice trembled. They'll tear us apart. John crouched down, touching her shoulder. No, they won't, he said, because I'm going to lead them away. Luma looked up, scared. But what if you don't come back? John smiled gently, hiding the pain in his eyes. I always come back. He gave them a small tracking beacon and pointed to the cliffs above. Climb there, stay quiet, and wait for your mother's ship to land. If you hear the beasts chasing me, don't look back. Vela nodded slowly, holding her sister close. John took a deep breath and stepped out into the canyon. Each footstep crunched on dry bones, each sound echoing far too loud. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a growl, low, rumbling, angry. Then another. Dozens of eyes opened across the canyon, glowing in the rising light, and the hunt began. John ran, his legs burning with each step. He lit a flare and threw it behind him, lighting the edge of the canyon in fire. The beasts screamed and charged through the flames, faster now. He tossed his last plasma grenade into a pile of bones. It exploded with fire and dust, sending creatures flying. Still, they came. Claws scraping, jaws snapping, roars shaking the rocks. John zigzagged through the skeletons, slashing at anything that got too close. One beast jumped onto his back, tearing into his shoulder. He stabbed it in the eye and rolled away, bleeding. He couldn't stop. Not now. Far above, Vela and Luma watched from behind a boulder. Vela's hands shook as she held the beacon tightly. He's still running, she whispered. He's leading them all. The ship above them blinked its landing lights. Their mother had seen the signal, but she couldn't land while the beasts filled the canyon. John had to clear the way. John reached a narrow bridge of stone. Leading to the far side, he ran across it, fire behind him, beasts at his heels. Halfway across, he turned around and slammed a broken metal spike into the weak point of the bridge. He jumped to the other side just as the bridge collapsed. The creatures on the bridge screamed and fell into the deep pit below. Dust and silence followed, but not all of them had fallen. More were climbing around the sides, circling toward him again. He could barely breathe, barely stand, but he kept moving. He climbed the rocky slope toward the ship, slipping on gravel. His hands were torn, his clothes soaked in blood and sweat. One last beast blocked his path, larger than the others. Teeth like swords, John grabbed a sharp bone from the ground and charged. He ducked under the beast's swing and stabbed upward with all his strength. The creature let out one final scream before falling. John collapsed beside it, chest heaving, vision fading. Above him, the ship's engines roared as it began to descend. Vela and Luma ran to him, shouting his name. Their mother stepped out of the ship, her eyes wide with shock and relief. She fell to her knees beside John, her hands glowing as she used her healing tech. "You saved them," she whispered. "You saved them all." John opened his eyes slowly, a weak smile on his face. "Not done yet," he muttered. Then everything went black. John opened his eyes to a strange glow. The ceiling above him was covered in soft lights, like stars frozen in stone. He tried to sit up, but pain gripped his chest like a fire. His arm was wrapped, his legs stitched, and his ribs were tightly bound. He was alive, but barely. A low hum filled the air like the purring of an alien engine. He turned his head slowly and saw her, the alien mother, kneeling beside him. Her silver skin shimmered in the light and her long hair fell like flowing water. Her hands glowed with soft green light as she pressed her palm to his wound. "You should rest," she said gently. "You nearly died." John blinked, confused. "Where are we?" She glanced around, her voice calm but cautious. "An old shelter, deep under the cliff walls. It once belonged to my people," she said. "But now, others live here." Footsteps echoed in the tunnel. John looked up to see tall figures entering the room. They were not like her. These aliens had rougher skin, darker eyes, armor made from bones and metal. One stepped forward, staring at John, with suspicion. "You bring the beast chasers here," the alien growled. "Why?" The mother stood tall beside John, her voice firm. "He saved my children," she said. "He has earned shelter." The alien narrowed his eyes but gave a short nod. "Then let him heal. But he does not stay long." John didn't argue. He knew he wasn't welcome, but he was too weak to leave, and the children needed time to recover too. He closed his eyes again and drifted into sleep. His dreams were full of fire, screaming, and the sound of claws on stone. When he woke again, Vela and Luma were beside him, smiling. "Your face looks less scary now," Luma giggled. John chuckled softly. "That's because your mom patched me up." They brought him food, thick alien roots and warm broth with floating herbs. He ate slowly, strength returning bit by bit. The shelter was quiet for now, but the danger outside had not vanished. That night, a storm shook the cliffs. The shelter walls trembled, dust falling from above. John sat near the fire pit, sharpening a broken blade, the leader of the rough aliens. A warrior named Koresh sat across from him. "You fight like the old ones," Koresh said without smiling. John nodded. "War teaches fast." Koresh looked at him with interest. "My tribe hides here because the creatures above hunt us too," he said. "They multiply, they swarm, they feed on flesh and fear." John leaned forward. "Then why not fight back?" Koresh's face grew dark. "We did," he said quietly. "We lost." Silence fell between them. Then Koresh stood, tossing a bone into the fire. "But you kill them alone. You might be worth following." John didn't smile, but his eyes lit with fire. "I didn't come here to lead," he said, "but I'll fight if it protects the kids." Koresh gave a sharp nod. "Then we stand together, for one battle." The next morning, they planned a strike. John's scanner had picked up a large gathering of creatures near a fuel pit in the lower canyon. If they could collapse the pit and burn it, they could wipe out dozens at once. It wouldn't end the threat, but it would give them breathing room. John, Koresh, and a few warriors prepared bombs made from old tech and crystal fuel. Vela watched quietly, her hands clutching her mother's. "Will you come back?" she asked John as he strapped on armor. He looked at her and smiled gently. "I always do," he whispered. They left at dawn, slipping through cracks in the canyon wall. John led the way, knowing the risks. When they reached the pit, they saw them over 50 beasts, growling, feeding, crawling. John signaled silently. The bombs were placed one by one, but just as they turned to retreat, one creature spotted them and howled. The swarm charged, and the sky filled with screeches. John grabbed a detonator and shouted, "Run!" Koresh and his team ran. Blades swinging, John waited one more second, then hit the trigger. Flames exploded upward, the fuel pit turning into a burning lake. Creatures flew through the air, burning, shrieking, falling. The sky glowed orange, lighting up the canyon walls. John stumbled back, the heat washing over him. He collapsed near the rocks, but strong arms caught him. Koresh pulled him up. "You really are cursed," the alien said, half smiling. "Or maybe blessed," John replied, coughing smoke. They returned to the shelter before nightfall, and for the first time in weeks, there was no howling outside, only silence, only peace. For now, the ground was still hot from the firebombs. Smoke rose from blackened rocks and ash floated in the air like snow. The fuel pit had burned deep, turning night into a sea of flames. But it wasn't over. The creatures were not gone. Not yet. John stood at the edge of a broken cliff watching movement in the distance. Through the smoke he saw them. 50 more beasts, larger, darker, stronger. Their skin looked like stone, and their eyes burned with hate. These weren't hunters. They were the leaders, the final wave. Koresh stepped beside him, breathing heavily. "We killed many, but not the worst," he said. John nodded, his hand resting on the handle of his last working blade. "We fight one more time," he said. "Then this ends." Koresh looked at him, eyes full of silent respect. "My people will follow you." Back at the shelter, the alien mother sat with her children. She held Luma close, brushing her hair gently. Vela watched her mother's face, nervous. "Will the human win again?" she asked. The mother didn't answer right away. Instead, she whispered, "He should have left us long ago, but he stayed." That kind of courage doesn't vanish easily. John and the fighters climbed out of the safe zone and moved toward the battlefield. They didn't speak. They knew what was coming. The air grew colder, the wind sharper. It felt like the planet itself was holding its breath. The creatures saw them and roared. They charged, huge feet shaking the earth. Claws. Dragging across stone, John took a deep breath and stepped forward. He didn't run, he walked. Slow, fearless, blade in hand. The others followed, forming a wall of warriors behind him. The two sides met in a crash of metal and fury. John slashed upward, cutting into the jaw of the first beast. Koresh stabbed another in the ribs, dodging its massive swing. The air filled with screams and roars, blood and dust. One beast knocked John to the ground, its jaws snapping inches from his face. He shoved a spike into its throat and rolled free. Another came, and he met it with fire, grabbing a broken torch and shoving it into the beast's eye. The creature howled and stumbled back, but others replaced it. They kept coming. John fought. Like a man with nothing left to lose, his body moved on instinct. Swing, block, stab, move. Wounds opened across his arms, chest, and legs, but he didn't fall. Not yet. Koresh was bleeding from the shoulder but still stood strong beside him. One by one, their fighters were falling, but the creatures were falling too. The numbers shrank. 50 became 40, 40 became 30. The ridge shook as another massive beast charged toward them. John grabbed an energy rod from a fallen ally and threw it like a spear. It struck the creature in the chest and exploded, fire lighting up the dark sky. At the shelter, the mother held the comlink close. Static filled her ears, but she refused. To turn it off, she kept whispering, "Come back, come back." Vela sat near the edge. Watching the glowing sky with tears in her eyes, she whispered too, "Please don't die, John." The final wave came, 10 monsters left. Desperate, wild, angry, John and Koresh stood back to back, blades ready. John's arm was shaking. But he gritted his teeth. "I'm not dying here," he growled. The beast circled them, and for a second everything was quiet. Then they charged together. John screamed and ran forward, slashing one, ducking another. Koresh stabbed two in one swing, but a third tackled him. John jumped on its back, stabbing it again and again until it collapsed. 5 left. 4, 3, 2, 1. The last beast stared at John with glowing eyes. Its chest was covered in scars. Its claws like blades. John had no weapon left, only a sharp stone. He ran at it, roaring louder than the beast. They collided. Claws and fists, teeth and blood. John slammed the stone into its eye, and the creature roared in agony. It grabbed him, lifted him, but then fell backward, dead. John fell with it, landing hard on the ground. Everything went quiet. The mother's comlink crackled, and a weak voice spoke. "It's done." She cried out in joy. The children jumped up, cheering. Outside, the smoke cleared, and 2 figures stood on the ridge. John and Koresh, covered in blood but alive. The last 50 beasts were gone, and the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter. John stood on the ridge, blood dripping from his hands. His chest rose and fell slowly, each breath heavier than the last. The wind passed over the canyon, quiet now. No more growls, no more howls. The beasts were gone, all of them. Beside him, Koresh leaned on a broken spear. He was wounded but alive, his face hard but proud. "We fought well," Koresh said, his voice rough. John gave a small nod, his legs trembling. His body felt like stone, bruised, burnt, broken, but he was still standing. Down the path, the alien mother rushed forward with her children behind her. Her silver robe fluttered in the wind, her eyes wide with tears. She dropped to her knees in front of John and placed both hands on his chest. "You came back," she whispered. He looked at her, eyes tired but calm. "I said I would." Vela and Luma ran to him, hugging him tightly, their small arms wrapped around his waist. And John knelt slowly to hug them back. "You kept us safe," Vela said softly. "You're our hero," Luma added with a bright smile. John gave a weak laugh. "You two were the brave ones." The mother looked at him with quiet wonder. "You gave everything," she said. "Not for riches, not for power, but for love." John didn't answer right away. He looked at the sky, watching the smoke fade into the clouds. "Sometimes the heart needs a reason to keep going," he finally said. I found mine. They returned to the shelter together. The fires had gone cold, and the wounded were resting. Some of the warriors from Koresh's tribe clapped John on the back. Others simply bowed their heads in respect. No more doubt, no more mistrust. He was one of them now, a warrior with no banner, but a heart stronger than steel. That night, the stars came out clearer than ever. The sky shimmered with colors: blue, gold, violet. It was a sign of peace, rare and beautiful. The tribe celebrated with soft music and glowing lanterns. Children danced, and laughter returned to the cold halls. John sat by the fire with a warm blanket over his shoulders. The mother sat beside him, silent for a while, then spoke. "My name is Elira," she said softly. John looked at her. "That's a beautiful name." Elira smiled, a gentle one. "I was afraid to give it before," she said, "in case I never saw you again." He looked into her eyes. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." She leaned closer, her voice trembling just a little. "I told you once, if you brought them home, I would give you my heart." John didn't speak, not yet. Elira reached out and took his hand in hers. "No gift can match what you've done," she said. "But I offer you something more than thanks." John squeezed her hand gently. "I'm no hero," he said quietly. "I'm just a man who couldn't walk away." Elira tilted her head, her eyes glowing in the firelight. "That's exactly why I give you my heart." The children joined them again. Vela, leaning on John's shoulder. "Can you stay with us?" she asked, hopeful. John looked at Elira, then at the stars, then back at the two little ones. He smiled, warm and full. "If you want me," he said, "I'm already yours." The days that followed were calm. The shelter was rebuilt. The tribe grew stronger. John helped train young warriors, taught the children how to survive. He even laughed again, real laughter, not the empty kind. And Elira. She stayed by his side always, her hand in his, her eyes full of quiet joy. One evening, Koresh stood beside John at the cliff edge. "Strange world," Koresh said. John nodded. "Strange, but beautiful." Koresh grunted. "You changed. Us human." John looked out at the quiet land. "No," he said. "You all changed me." And with that, the warrior who once walked alone became the protector of a new home, a father to two alien girls, a partner to a mother who once cried in the dark, and a symbol of what a single human heart could do when it refused to give up.